Hello, it is Diane with Diane's BlueHeartsAndButterflies.com, and this is a diagonal fold card. I've been looking on the internet and I found several diagonal type cards, and I created a techniques make and take class that's dealing with a bunch of diagonals. So if you check out my blog at Diane's BlueHeartsAndButterflies.com, you'll see other projects over there that deal with other diagonal cards. This one I saw Tammy White had done, and it was really cute, so I wanted to share this. I'm using some papers and stamps and things that I had to create all these cards, because I wanted to mainly focus on the techniques. So I did use the Thoughtful Expressions stamp set, and I used these adhesive back solid gems, and then I still have my old circles dies. You can use circle punches or any other circle dies that you have. And then I have a whole bunch of doilies that I have had left over from other projects over the years. And then you'll also need some little magnets. And then I used pecan pie and old olive, because they went with the designer series paper that I am using. You can use any designer series paper, any stamps that you want. And this, I'm going to give out the dimensions, but over on my blog I do have dimensions and diagrams to kind of go over and explain how to do this, and what you'll need to do the cards. So let me get all these things over here out of the way. I did go ahead and do the stamping and stuff ahead of time. So the base is an 11 by 5.5. I used peach pie cardstock. I scored it in landscape at 3 3/8 inches from each end. And then you'll need 2 front frame cardstock layers. I used pecan pie, and these are 3 1/8 by 5 1/4. Then you'll need 2 designer series paper that you want to use for the front. They can be the same, they can be different. I just chose different ones that complement each other. These are 2 7/8 by 5, and then an inside white piece is 5 1/4 by 4, and I stamped an image on there and the pecan pie to go inside. And then there is a designer series piece of paper that is 2 3/8 by 5 3/4. That you will actually glue on to the flap of the card. So add your adhesive here, lay this down, and then flip it over once it's glued down, and use your snips just to cut the edge off. And that's how that. So now we will work on our this circle is I started out with a 3" by 3" lemon lolly cardstock, and then I stamped the image in the old olive, and then I'm going to color that. And then I used 3 of those gems, and then the doily and some of the magnets. And I'll show you that. That's for the closure. So on here, and I've got a diagram that I will be putting on my blog, but you're going to measure down 1 3/4 inches from the top corner down. And then you're going to measure 1 inch over from each side at the bottom. And then you're going to take, let me move these things out of the way. You'll take your trimmer, and you're going to line up this mark and this mark. So this mark is the 1 3/4 inch. You'll line that up in the trimmer track. And then the 1 inch down here, I drew lines on this because at my class I wanted them to be able to see where those are. So you'll line up those points, and then using the cutting blade, you're going to go ahead and cut that part off. If there's any lines left that you don't want, you can use your eraser to erase those. And then you're going to go from this 1 3/4 inch mark on the side up to where the top of that score line is on that side, and you're going to also cut that. And so I'm going to erase the pencil lines that didn't exactly line up. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side with the score line to the 1 3/4. Cut that. And then from the 1 3/4 down to your 1 inch mark, we'll line that up in your trimmer and you'll trim that part. The one easy thing about this technique is that the measurements are going to be the same even on the other pieces. So this is what folds up to be your front so that the diagonals come into the card. So on the front pieces, the layers that you're going to put over here, you're going to want to make sure, I mean, these are solid colors so it doesn't matter. You'll just make one of them one way and one of them the other way. So measure down 1 3/4 inch on this one's the one that goes on the right side of the front. So you'll measure 1 3/4 inches here and 1 inch here. You're going to do your cuts the same way from those two marks. And then again from the 1 3/4 inch mark. I missed that one just a little bit. Let me go back. See if I can take that little bit of edge. Might have to just whack that with the scissors. And then that 1 3/4 inch mark to the top opposite corner. This one doesn't have a fold line, but you're going to go to that top opposite corner and cut that piece off. Erase any pencil lines that you don't want. You're probably not going to draw the lines like I did for my class. And then again, this one's the one for the front left side. You're going to want to make sure that you measure down on the opposite side. So this one you're going to measure on this side, this one you're going to measure on this side. And so down 1 3/4 over 1, and then you'll cut that 1 3/4 up to that top corner, and then the 1 3/4 down to the 1, and that has that part. Now, like I said, this one won't matter as much because it is the layer, but that is going to go there, and this one is going to go here. And then depending if you're using the same design or you have different ones, if you want this one like I do, I want this one to go this way. So I'm going to measure down the 1 3/4 and then measure over the 1, and then this one I wanted to go on this side, so I want to make sure that I measure down 1 3/4 on this side and over 1 on this side. And then you'll cut those pieces from that mark, 1 inch mark up to the 1 3/4, and then from the 1 3/4 to the opposite corner. And I'll do the same thing with this piece, 1 3/4 up to the top corner, and then the 1 3/4 down to the 1, and erase any pencil marks that you do not want. I have several pencil marks because mine was drawn on. I just bought this, one of those click erasers from the dollar store, and that's what I keep in my craft room because it makes really good things. So now you're going to put together your layers, all of these pieces can either go in your scrap pile, or if you're like me and you have too many, you will just put those in your little trash bin. So I'm going to use Seal Plus. You can use whatever adhesive you like, white glue, tear and tape, whatever. Seal Plus, it comes off really good and clean, and then if it hangs over, it's really easy to fold that over. And then I'm just kind of creating an even border around here. I did learn a trick from Sharon Armstrong that you can huff and it will help undo some of your adhesive by using that hot air. If you didn't get it on there correctly, it gives you a little bit of a chance to pull it off and redo it. I shared that at my class after I saw her do that, and it was amazing, and somebody really needed to use that over and over. So it was really nice. So, oh, and I just did what I didn't want to do. Oh, before you put this on, that's another reason I need to do this. So I'm going to lift this back up. One of the magnet pieces that you have is going to need to go under here. I'm going to use a glue dot to help hold that piece back here where it's going to come together. And I'm just going to adhere that there. I'm going to add a little bit more adhesive around this. And stick that down. And don't put, you can put these two layers on this other side together, but don't put them on the card front until we add the magnet on that other side. We can go ahead and do this, and whichever side you want to close over whichever side. Because I'm having this be on the inside, that's why the magnet needs to be up close to the Designer Sherry's paper so that it can catch the magnet that I'm going to put on this side, and it will line up and match there. So once I know where that's going to be, I'm going to go ahead and put a glue dot there. I use a couple of them just to make sure that it sticks well. Let me stick these layers together first. I'm at the end of that one. Hold on. I will take that apart later. Let me just grab another one. I was folding over because it went off that edge when it came apart. I have several of these ready to go. So then I'm going to line this up on this one. And just make sure that you're going to put quite a bit of adhesive around where that magnet's going to be so that it will stick well. And then we're going to cover over where that magnet is. I need to stick that down. You can also use a belly band. You don't even have to have any kind of a magnetic enclosure. I just thought that that was kind of neat. And then on the inside, I'm going to glue the white layer that I stamped. You can put a message in there, whatever you want. You just might want to leave the top part undecorated, because when it's closed you will see that part. And then I'm going to take and color. I'm just using, you can use any of the markers that you have. I'm using the Peach Pie Stampin' Write marker to color my flower. And I am not really great with coloring. I do not profess to be. But I don't think it really matters when you're doing card making. The people really appreciate just getting something made from you. I'm using pecan pie in the center because that's the color of the gems that I'm using. And then you can use the Old Olive markers. I'm going to use Old Olive for the bigger leaves. I guess I kind of follow the direction of those lines on the leaves, and then just kind of fill in around the edges. And then I have a dark Old Olive blends that I'm gonna just do this other leaf image, part of the image in that. And then I'm going to use, I think I'm just going to use some Seal Plus on the back of this doily and kind of the middle. Might have to be careful because Seal Plus does tend to tear things because it is very, very strong. I'm just going to adhere that kind of over the middle. And then just going to put some adhesive. If you want, you can pop it up, however you want to do that. And I'm just going to put that kind of in the middle. If you want a sentiment, you could add a sentiment strip. And then I'm just going to take two of the larger ones and use them as my flower centers. Just going to put this other just off to the other side. I apologize. I have a sensor going off. Alright, hold on. Just a moment.